Oh, yeah. He texted me yesterday.
There we go.
Thank you. I think we're ready.
We are.
Grab this real quick. That's in that same spot.
Oh, that's just fine.
But it calls me in the order.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Bailey, Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Thank you.
First agenda item is approval of minutes, approval of the October 28th minutes.
So moved.
Preceded me. I did read them though.
It did precede you, so if you want to approve them,
Yeah, so moved. Got a motion, I'll make the second. All in favor?
thank you.
Absolutely. We'll proceed to city beautification.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I want to first of all acknowledge two guests that we've got with us today. Assistant Richland County Administrator Eric Jensen and Director of Animal Services for Richland County, Ms. Sandra Haynes. And they're here to hear Victoria when it comes her time, but I want to go ahead and acknowledge those and welcome them to our meeting. And we've got Brian Niger, our Superintendent of Forestry and Beautification, is going to share a little update with us, and then I suspect we'll have some good fruitful discussion after that.
Well, I know I speak for Councilman McDowell when I say we care about collaboration and working with our county partners. So I'm glad to have y'all in the room.
Thank you.
How are y'all today?
Doing fine.
So several years ago, the city put an emphasis on beautification, going so far as for council to put as one of the strategic initiatives for budgets as beautification within the city. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've been doing on that and discuss some of our past, present, and future projects. I'm going to start with the past projects, and I really want to start with the mowing contractors. We put together back in 2022, 2023, a contract to contract out a good bit of our mowing on a lot of our major corridors entering the city. You've got the I-26 corridor, you've got Harbison Interchange, Greystone Boulevard, all the way up to Hugie and Elmwood gets mowed. Then on the I-20 corridor, you've got North Main and Fairfield Road, and the I-77 corridor, we have Garner's Ferry, and 277, we've got Farrow Road. This is done on a 10-day rolling basis. It ties in directly with our 10-day beautification within the central districts of the city. As part of our additional beautification, we actually went ahead and did some self-watering pots. You may have seen them outside this picture number 3 and 4. We are those self-watering pots. What they are, you fill the reservoir. It's got a wicking system that actually gets the water up to the plants and allows you to only have to fill the reservoir once a month. And then the 2 hottest weeks of the year, you water it just to make sure that it stays nice and pretty for everybody to see. We've got that at Main, Lady Street, pots over there on the bridge, and also at the Taylor parking deck, as you can see there. With that, we also engaged some of our small businesses on this. One that I could think of is the Gardener's Outpost up on North Main. We'll give them what we are putting in the pots here at City Hall and 1800 Main, and then they will do the same pots that are lining North Main from Elmwood North and try to match us. They'll do the planting, the maintenance, weeding, stuff like that. We also attacked some of the fence repairs. So I don't know if you remember, but back a few years ago, we had a lot of fence damage on Elmwood, on Assembly, North Main. We went ahead and fixed those, but we also worked in conjunction with our insurance and the police department to get the insurance to pay back to city for those damage whenever somebody was hitting them. And then over there at Senate Street Median, we, if you remember the Staley statue unveiling, we went ahead through there. We trimmed up all those hedges, got them back into a reasonable state. We pulled out some of the beautification there and replaced it with Staley daylilies and a good bit of liriope, stuff like that. Really spruce that area up and helps out with the entrance to the convention center, and also a lot of the teams that come to play, they stay in that hotel right there.
Looks good, Brian, too. Looks good.
Thank you. Going to go back to the Taylor Street garage there. That is a spot where Dominion approached us. All the palm trees there needed to come out because they were growing into the power lines. So we worked with them to go ahead and replace those palms with shorter palms. And in that process, that's when we did the pots for the front there. And we also tried to make that happen because we knew Finley was going to open and we wanted to try to have a good, beautiful parking garage for Finley. And then the last one I want to talk about on this slide is the Bull Street median. That's this first picture here. That's a picture of us laying down some sod there. Over there in front of the old DHEC building, we took out all of the Bradford pears that were there and fallen apart. And we continued the beautification that we had from Elmwood and Bull all the way up to the 277 corridor there.
I think if you look at a before and after there,
Very awesome.
Thank you, sir. I want to shift gears just a little bit and talk about some of our gateway projects that is outside of our normal beautification. I want to talk about the sidewalk maintenance. We do edging, mowing, clearing of debris, mower's width behind the sidewalk and all the crack weeds and stuff like that. And this first section here, you see a before and after, same exact spot. That's the type of work that our guys are doing on these roads. On our primary roads like Hardin, Gervais, UG, we do that quarterly. On our secondary roads like Calhoun Street, we'll do that every 6 months. But this is two guys that we have on staff along with 4 temps that accomplishes this work.
Brian, technically, per city ordinance, it's the property owner, their responsibility to maintain that. But since we're in these gateways, we've taken on that responsibility rather than try to enforce that, so.
And the idea of this was to create a uniform look through the city. I'll point you to Forest Drive. If you drive down Forest Drive and get just outside of our jurisdiction, you will see a marked difference in the sidewalk maintenance. Now, if we have somebody who we have an issue like this top, we'll hand them a letter and say, hey, under 8-237, you're responsible to maintain up to the curb and gutter. We've cleaned it up, go ahead and keep it up. And that really works out a lot because they see that we put in the time to clean it up, and then they'll put in the time to actually keep it up. So in the years we've been doing it, we've been seeing a lot less of these incidents. Moving on to solid waste with the concrete median sweeping. So in the past, we would get a request from someone in council to go ahead and clean up some concrete medians, and we would send guys out there with shovels and blowers and rakes to clean up any of the weeds coming up, shovel up all the dirt, and get it cleaned up. We'd have them go out on a Sunday and have about 4 people out from about 6 to 11. Last year, Solid Waste went ahead and bought that beautiful sweeper you can see there with that moving arm. That allows one person, one machine to do the same work. They're doing it every night, six days a week. And they're right now working through the first 11-day cycle. As they continue on, you will be seeing these concrete medians look a lot better moving forward.
Have you driven that?
That machine? No, sir. I've actually ridden it as a passenger, but not, and that was during the testing phase, but I've not actually run the machine.
It seems like it would be fun.
And what are the designated areas?
What we did is we looked at all of our roads that actually have concrete medians and just added them to the list and created a route system on that. And a lot of that research was done either by driving or by looking up Google Street View or Google Earth.
A lot of state roads.
Exactly.
We've got the concrete medians. When did we start using this, Brian? Roughly 2 months.
About 2 months ago, so
I think what we're hoping is the spring growing season for weeds this is keeping the soil from accumulating on the medians, so we shouldn't see that growth. I think, the medians look good right now. I think they'll continue to look good, but
yes, sir.
this spring and summer will be the measure of that visually for us to.
And I will say that front brush there is part poly material and part steel. So even if a weed does come up, it will tear it out. I watched it do it over there on UG Street when they tested it. It does a really good job on that.
Good.
And Clint, I would point out, we were really doing a good job. until something came along, kind of snowstorm and ice storm. So now that they've spread salt and sand everywhere, it's all over the medians. So we gotta go back and start over.
I will say, and Shanique knows this because I already sent her an email, I do think it's important for council to get out and participate in some of our various city departments. So definitely need to make sure that we have council's influence on the driving of your vehicle here.
I was asking him, right? Sure.
We'll ride along.
That's not in the job description.
A simple ride along will suffice.
That'll work.
Yeah, right along, yeah.
Quick question, and I don't want to stop you if you're gonna.
No, it's-
later, but that's my question is like, some of the various groups that we have, Columbia Green, Keeping the Midlands Beautiful, Robert, I'm looking, I'm trying to make sure I don't leave out anybody who was in the, at the, meeting last Friday, but, the CPAC meeting last Friday. But some of these various groups who, either they themselves go out and, do plantings or help with beautification, or they provide grants to other, other entities. What's their impact and what's that crossover look like?
So there's several things that are in the fire right now. I can talk about it now, actually. I was going to the Beat the Heat Plant a Tree program. That's a partnership that the city has with Columbia Green, where they will purchase the trees. They will do a lot of the admin work. We provide the logistics side of it. Over the last 2 years, about 2,000 trees were given away. You can see every dot on this map represents a tree that was given away. If you look at the map, most of the dots are centered in the city. As of January of this year, we had delivered close to 1,000 trees just within city limits. They've also had partnerships with Richland County, Forest Acres, West Columbia, and Casey to do that in other districts as well. We also have a Trees for SC grant that we're going through that Keep the Midlands Beautiful is part of, as is the university, the Columbia Green, and several other groups. We're all in that group together. I know Robert wants to.
Yeah, I'm gonna share a couple more. So for years, we've worked with Keep the Midlands Beautiful. So we have an Adopt a Street program, which are main thoroughfares more within the city. So we're mimicking the Adopt a Highway program. So, you'll see orange bags periodically. I think it's 4 times a year. So we're actually doing those programs. As you heard the other day, I believe there's in our infant stages of some beautification stuff. We're looking at the flood lots around the city to see if we can actually, enhance some of the plant material to make some pollinator gardens and stuff out of the flood lots. So, we will continue to engage these groups. I know Brian's getting ready to talk about the MBLG, which is a deal that goes back to a former mayor. That's how long this project's going on. And we're glad to see some of that he's going to discover. So we're continuing to engage these groups and new ideas all the time.
Let me ask this question. How active are some of our neighborhoods in that mix? Are some of our neighborhoods, are there areas of Columbia where we have neighborhoods who are stepping up to help with some of their thoroughfares?
So I think the quick answer would be there's a lot of wants from the neighborhoods to do that. I don't know that they have some of the direction to do that now. I know we were going to talk about this a little bit later. Brian, talk about some of the thoughts we've had for Councilman Johnson about maybe a program of enhancing the neighborhoods.
Yeah, so we've been talking about several options, and one of the ones that come to mind is the signs for the entrance of the neighborhoods. As you probably remember, many years ago, we gave grants out for them to build the signs. Well, now they're starting to decline, and they're not looking good. We thought that a good idea might be to create a grant program where we would go ahead and try to standardize the neighborhood signs so people know they're in Columbia. Make it something that is long-lasting, like metal instead of wood. My division would be happy to provide some guidance as to what would look good planting around it. The neighborhood would have to put it all together, put it up, and then as part of that, come up with a plan to maybe include litter control throughout the neighborhood as part of that grant. Great way to update something that we've heard a lot about, and we can move forward.
It's a great way to engage the neighborhood. disappear now, they're rotten.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because they are wooden.
That's correct.
Yes, sir. So, coming up with kind of a standard design that has the city's new logo, the neighborhood's name, work with PR and Crawford and a signed company, but then beautification around that, and then some guidelines for incentivizing neighborhoods. I think there's the desire there, putting a little structure to it, and then a little green to it
Sure.
would go a long way. And so, I don't know if micro grant's the right terminology, but some sort of smaller grant program to incentivize that. They could then, there'd be some criteria where they could pay younger folks in the community to do some of that work. And variety of different.
By employing folk.
Yes, sir.
And Clint, I think it's worth pointing out that we've made the mention of this program in our budget letter this year, so it's, been made aware of.
Okay. Sounds great.
And in the grand scheme of things, we're not talking about a ton of money, but it could really be a large impact when you think about engaging the community. So, thank
Absolutely.
you.
No, thank you.
I think when we engage communities, it gives folk a real pride for their own particular community.
Absolutely.
And if that doesn't happen, the community continues to go down, of course. The ideal thing is to have persons who would engage themselves, quote unquote, in cleanups, thereby invigorating their own community and beautifying that community. So, apropos, okay.
And to touch on that, I would say that the Beat the Heat program we have, we made a point where we won't plant the tree for the person. They have to do it. And we found that actually brings them to. They've actually volunteered, some of them have actually come to volunteer to help with the whole program itself. Letting people do it themselves really helps them want to be a part. So
And I hate to be, I think it's necessary for communities, especially communities when they are in real bad shape in terms of beautification, to allow our young folk, given a job, for them to clean up and beautify their community. I think Sam and I have talked about that a little bit, about the possibility of employing youth with this. Not just your average, the judge will sentence you to community service and allow you to clean up. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a job.
yes,
And a
sir.
part of that vision is a job to, quote unquote, beautify that area. Now, if we could do that or something similar to that, or add on to that, that would be a tremendous help.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
No worries. I'm gonna move on to the Midlands Business Leadership Group. Over several years, they have been in discussion about beautifying some of the entrances to the city. The first one is the Highway 302 over there at the airport. Putting in the materials now, so you can see them putting it in. That's finally off the ground. There are other sites that they're talking about, but at this point, they're still working on 302.
Brian, I'm sorry, real quick, I really should have mentioned this, but that is a regional approach that Mercer County, Lexington County, City of Columbia, West Columbia, Town of Lexington, Irmo, Forest Acres, they are all participating in this and participating in the funding of the maintenance of this project.
Yes.
Sorry.
I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our new Welcome to Columbia signs. Robert's been working really hard on this project for several years now. We've got several that have gone in. Over there at Bull Street and 126 at UG, they're backlit. You can see in this, the Bull Street one, you can see where it's backlit on that. I want you to remember the landscaping around that, because that's going to be what I'm going to talk about in my next slide. The other ones that we have, which are at Harbison and North Main, we weren't able to get electricity there, so we set up a solar uplighting. You can see the North Main uplit there on the picture to the left on the bottom. And then I also threw in there the picture of the one at 126 and UG, so you could see what it looks like during the day. They're looking really good. I think it was a great program that went through there, and other locations are being considered for other signs. With that, we do have a plan to do some beautification around them. We wanted to pull off of that Bull Street look with a palm tree behind it and some of the landscaping around it. So we were going to go ahead and put a Distillium in there that gets up to about six by 6, and then some palms behind it. That way you're not taking away from the sign itself. And then around it, we wanted to put some rubber mulch so that you don't have anything growing up in front of it or around it, and it would keep the maintenance easy to make that sign front and center moving forward. Some upcoming projects we have, you can see the picture here. This is a drone footage of the early process over there on Hardin Street at 5 Points. We have those medians coming to us probably sometime this year. You have the William Street corridor that we've been talking about that will be coming up sometime in the next year or two. We've also got the mowing contracts. They're going up for rebid. One of the things that we're going to do with that is we're going to increase some of the areas that they mow. 277 is one of the focuses on that. We'll get them to mow the Clyburn Bridge, Farrer Road like they've been doing over there at Sunset, and then the Bull Street corridor coming up to Elmwood. We also wanted to throw in there some of our lessons learned where we put it in we didn't put it in the last contract, and it might have been a problem. Like, for example, coming off Greystone, coming onto Greystone into town, like you're going to the zoo, that circle there, we want them to clean up the underbrush up to the top of the hill, just to make that just that much better of a place to visit.
This is gonna sound silly, but I just wanna ask this question. If, for the mowing contracts, I know they're there to cut grass.
Yes, sir.
If they see litter, are they all?
That is, yes, sir. So as part of the contract, we require them to pick up the litter before they mow because we don't want them to shred it.
Right.
So, exactly. So that's one thing that has really come out of that is a lot of our entrances stay pretty clean. I will say the two worst entrances for us is Harperston and Garner's Ferry. Most trash coming out of those areas, but with them being there, it doesn't, you wouldn't be able to tell because they're keeping it up. And then some upcoming ones that are still in the planning phase, I'm not sure what's going to come out of them, but the road safety audits for Millwood and Gervais. And then you also have the in-design phases for Divine Street and Assembly Street from Pendleton up to Lady. Those are in design. There will be some beautification coming out of that. I'm not sure what all will be coming out of that.
So you're not familiar with Millwood, in terms of, and I heard you say nothing right now?
So, I'm sorry, Brian, I'll jump in.
I mean, what we got up there now was, of course, the signs on Millwood down below Gervais Street. You know what I'm talking about, Robert?
The Hawk signal.
The Hawk signal right there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right there.
So DOT is looking, Reverend McDowell, they're looking at they performed a road safety audit and are looking at some median enhancements and striping and improvements that would limit some of the turning movements that can happen, and they've been working with the community members.
Further down Millwood?
Yes, sir, all the way to Dreer High School.
To Drew House,
Yes, sir.
Gervais,
That whole stretch.
not
And,
Gervais,
Divine.
Divine.
Yes, sir. And so Gervais to Divine, there's a design to try to improve pedestrian and vehicular safety. And there've been, I'd say, quite a few comments from the community, and Sean Sally and DOT and Councilman Johnson, I know you facilitated some of those discussions. There have been some meetings, and I think they're giving some. They haven't been rigid on that. So trying to make it workable, still helpful and to the safety component and a useful project, but one that doesn't limit access to a degree where it's, unworkable for our community.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of a balance act. That's still in the very early stages, conceptual stages. So I think we're a little ways off of design and construction for that
Okay.
one.
Yeah, I was looking at, I know what a Hawk system is.
Yes, sir.
Of course, that's about a third of the way down Millwood.
Yes, sir.
Would that extend all the way to Divine
So there'll be,
or beyond the Hawk system?
it'll go on all the way to Divine. And
Okay.
so, again, Gervais to Divine, and think about, median improvements, crosswalk improvements, landing area for pedestrians that are crossing in areas where you don't have a hawk signal, something like that, but a resting point in the median for the pedestrians.
Okay.
And, I think narrowing lane widths a little bit.
The last thing is the high visibility crosswalk signs.
Yeah.
The flashing, not a hawk, but more flashing.
One thing to
So
keep,
we're not talking about another Hawk system?
No, sir.
We're talking about flashing lights. I got you.
one thing to keep in mind too, is that this conversation is also happening at the same time we're having a conversation around Divine Street as well, so.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
So let me ask this. Not to skip us ahead on that conversation, but let's say Millwood's done, Gervais Street's done. Is there thought on what beautification and upkeep looks like? Or are we kind of thinking that we're gonna think about that when we get there? I will say I did have the pleasure and pain of recently meeting with the 5 Points board. They shared some concerns about Hardin Street. So just curious about kind of,
And I think, Robert, and Brian, as those designs are developed, DOT asks for our input on planning and beautification. So we get to provide, and so we try to, Brian tries to give them advice and spec out different planning material that's low maintenance, but also provides, some
And
beauty.
DOT has worked really well with us in the past on that. They'll come up with a concept plan, send it to us, ask us for comments, we'll give them comments, and then they'll go back and they may change it, they may not, but 90% of the time I've seen where they've taken what we've asked them to do and have knocked it out. The other 10% could have been a safety reason or something like that we overlooked.
Councilman, I will point out that we are also getting ready to meet with 5 Points Association about once we do take over the medians, what that's going to look like, but also the rest of the neighborhood, the old Exxon lot, I don't know what else to call it that, really has been an enhancement to that area. The plant material's really starting to take hold of that. So we're trying to do that throughout the neighborhood. They've got some ideas, we've got some ideas, we're just trying to work together on it.
Yes, sir. We already talked about Beat the Heat. If you have any questions on that, we can. And I did want to point,
real quick,
yes, sir.
I'm thinking about some of the recent conversations we had there. I'd love to just follow up and get a map of where we have been, where we've received requests, that sort of thing, and where we haven't. Certainly, I love to do whatever I can to help encourage some of our neighborhoods and communities who have not requested trees to do so.
And we can definitely do that. I will say one of the biggest issues that we have in the 29203 district is 60% of the residents there rent. And so there is a desire to try to get landlords involved as well.
What I hear you saying is you need me and Tina to go out and plant trees for them. I got you. Happy to.
But I'm going to point out, we are now 46-year Tree City USA. We are the longest running tree city in the state right now. If it weren't for the fact that we didn't know about this program until 2 years after it started, we'd be the longest, period. We also this year became a Bee City USA. I've got to say thank you to Samantha Cornell, our Public Works intern. She did all of the footwork for this and got us this certification. It's a really great certification to have. And I did want to throw in here, because I'd feel remiss if I didn't. That's Daniel Wolf, who's cutting down a dead, diseased, dying pine tree. He's doing a great job on that, and I just wanted to point that out.
I will, and I shouldn't add this, but I'm going to. If anybody would have been in town last night, there was an air gas truck with about 40 or 50 gas bottles on it that clipped a tree on Taylor Street last night. watching Brian's guys dissect that tree off that gas truck and lift it off there was amazing, I'll tell you.
Yeah, they're really talented and very specialized work.
Yes, sir.
Councilman, a couple takeaways, but one larger one, I heard the desire for us to help put some bones to a neighborhood engagement program. So if it's y'all's will, would love to take that back and kind of develop a framework of what that might look like, bring that back to the next time we gather, and then, and maybe share a draft in advance. And that would be something that y'all could consider approving and then taking on to the rest of
I
council.
think we ought to do that, Clint. I mean, summer's coming,
Yes, sir.
and you're gonna have foliage everywhere. And left unkept is gonna be totally, for lack of a better word, unbeautiful. I think we could have that conversation, don't you think?
Absolutely.
We could have that conversation, and we need to do it, I would think, before summer, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. There's some minor budget implications.
Yes, sir.
And so Robert's put in the request, but I think support of the.
Okay.
Well, and I guess my thought too is if we could pull something like that together sooner rather than later from, on that piece of the puzzle. And if what I heard before is that the signage program, that sort of thing is gonna maybe be a separate, maybe larger budgetary request for our upcoming budget.
I think we can wrap it, I think, we'll look at it, Councilman, and see, but, you're looking at a grant of, what were we talking, Robert? 8 to 10,000 per community that wants to step forward.
That's a round in there for Robert's budget.
Yeah. So, I think we can get started and, signs, beautification, engagement. So there's some dollars to procure the sign, but also maybe to engage younger folks.
I will say too, one thing that's gonna be important to me is to make sure we have a robust effort that makes sure that, if you've got neighborhoods in District 4 requesting the signs, taking advantage of the program, I wanna make sure we have just as much interest in District 1 and 2 and there in between. So I think making sure that our neighborhood leaders are aware of it, encouraging them to utilize it. And then I think going back to Councilman McDowell's point, the other thing I would say as far as timeline goes is, force multipliers. As many of our youth that we can get out there, it allows us to focus on some of our other thoroughfares, other challenges that we've got. So I think there's a public safety component to it too, where we're,
Councilman, we've kind of internally talked about this. We think community development would be heavily involved in this because of the Columbia Council of Neighborhoods. They originally did the first grants of the sign. So we could see a component of, some public works, maybe solid waste, maybe forestry, community development, public safety, public information. So we all come up with a good framework that we could bring back to you. So we've had some of these conversations, we just haven't engaged them far enough along to actually put them on paper yet.
so this is my opportunity with the pastor here to say idle hands are the devil's workshop. So I wanted to get that in.
I've read that somewhere.
So I think, I heard you loud and clear with the summer months coming up. Certainly, I think that component's there. But no, I think this is wonderful.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Takes us on to Animal Services. Ms. Victoria.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for your time today. I am here to discuss some proposed changes to Chapter 4 of our ordinances, which is titled Animals. You should have a red line draft in front of you that was drafted by our legal department. You're going to see quite a few changes in that draft, but I'm going to talk about the most notable ones in this presentation today. Right off the bat, one of the first things we did was just reorganize our articles for a more concise flow. And we added in some definitions to support terminologies throughout the sections that did not have clarification previously. Some of our most notable changes are modifications to our kennel license, our tethering requirements, animal care generally. We did have an addition of sale of animals, and we have a modification to our licensing program. I would like to point out that all of these modifications do result in alignment with our partner Richland County's ordinances as well. So to start with our kennels and breeding, currently the City of Columbia only has a kennel licensing ordinance. This is quite a bit dated in comparison to other ordinances. It does come with a pet limitation versus a breeder's permit and license option that you'll see in most municipalities. It was designed many years ago with the idea to deter breeding, and I believe the concept when it was written was if you have more than 3 dogs, you are likely involved in a breeding operation of some sort. Therefore, you're going to be required to obtain a kennel license, which comes with the construction of outdoor kennels. It's not an easy process, and I think it was intentionally designed that way. You do have to connect to a particular sewer line. You have to construct kennels with a certain square footage for canine, and you have to obtain a license for that as well. So there are quite a few hoops to jump through. We are proposing approaching this with a kennels and breeding ordinance that would allow commercial pet breeders to obtain a breeder's permit from Animal Services. In order to do this, they would have to get a breeder's permit from us, which would require that the home has been inspected and the environment is in alignment with humane conditions that align with our ordinance. So some bullet point changes are going to, again, be that the owner must pass an inspection, they must obtain a City of Columbia business license, and we would also ensure that those pets are vaccinated and licensed as well. Our next change is to our tethering ordinance. We do currently address tethering, but it is very vague, and I believe 2 or 3 sentences within our confinement and restraint of canines ordinance. Currently, tethering is permitted for no more than 9 hours within a 24-hour period. We do address the length of the tether and the distance that the tether must be from the property line, but we do not address more of the important details. So this is a change that is very dear to us because we do get community members inquiring about this quite a bit, particularly if they live next to neighboring dogs that are tethered, oftentimes 24 hours. And it's very hard for us to enforce that 9-hour legal parameter because we just don't have the ability to monitor a tethering situation for 9 hours, nor the surveillance. So some of the changes that we are proposing are going to bring a more humane approach to tethering. We are proposing shortening the time frame from 9 hours to 2 hours in a 24-hour period. That is the time frame that we found most consistently amongst other ordinances, as well as recommendations of national groups like Humane World for Animals, formerly known as Humane Society of the United States. We also applied an age stipulation to tethering, so animals no more than 6 months could be tethered. We are applying a tether weight, which would be no more than 10% of the animal's weight, and that's really to mitigate the practice of tethering animals with heavy chains. Yes, sir.
I'm curious on that piece. Do you recall what that language looks like, that piece specifically?
Yes.
I know some of the concern.
Here.
That's the last piece in your packet as well. Got a copy of it.
Is that this piece here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
On page 7, Reverend McDowell, page 7, page 6, starting at the bottom of page 6.
Yeah, you'll see our additions on page 6 and subsection B. The blue language are going to be the additions to the tethering requirements.
And I'm gonna call your names. I do know we have several members of council joining us virtually. I just wanna read section B, subsection B. The tether is a minimum of 12 feet in length and has swivel type termination at both ends. At the tether weight does not exceed 10% of the pet's body weight. Which that language there specifically, as somebody who's attended a few neighborhood meetings where the concern has been addressed, I think that language is extremely important and helpful guidance for folks who've heard some of different neighborhoods' concern around large chains on smaller dogs, that sort of thing.
Yes, sir, and that percentage actually came again from Humane World for Animals. Just so I don't keep saying it, they are formerly known as HSUS, Humane Society for the United States. They changed their name last year. So we got that language from them. And it's also the most consistent formula that's provided through forensic studies. We do have a forensics veterinarian at our shelter who has worked with us on identifying some of the appropriateness with these practices as well. So again, just to mitigate the practice of heavy chains, which we do see from time to time in tethering situations. And if you keep reading down, you'll see some of the stipulations that we have applied, again, to bring a more humane practice to tethering. So aside from the weight of the chain, we are also specifying the age, which would be no less than 6 months, and the appropriate conditions of the animal, meaning if they are sick or injured, they are not to be tethered. We are also applying temperature stipulations, so no animal should be tethered less than 40 degrees or above 90 degrees in the summertime. And the biggest reason for that is it's, especially in the high heat, very difficult for an animal to get away from its own body heat. Dogs will oftentimes relocate from spot to cool down, but if they don't have enough spots to relocate, they can often overheat, which would be a medical emergency or heat stroke.
Now I'm just trying to figure this thing out. If it's too cold and they are tethered, dogs are tethered, what do we do?
So with these changes, they would not be permitted to be tethered in less than 40-degree weather.
And if they are,
If they are, you will see what we're getting to next in our animal care generally
sorry.
modifications.
I'm jumping ahead, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Peter.
That's a very good question. We have applied stipulations under animal care generally to ensure that any animal tethered in less than 40-degree weather has appropriate insulation of some sort in their housing.
If it's hot or cold.
Yes, well, you wouldn't want to do anything like that if it's hot. There would be no permit to tether above 90 degrees. So essentially, if we came upon a situation with a tethered animal, if it was above 90 degrees outside, we would work with the owner to either get the animal inside or bring them off of the tether if they had an enclosed property that would be safe to do so.
Okay.
So some additional changes to our animal care generally section. And if you would like to follow along, I will find that in our draft. It's going to be on page 11. And we actually have, under A, some subsections that are not blue, but those were added language to better define appropriate housing for outdoor confinements. So currently, our animal care generally, it addresses what is appropriate in the way of providing veterinary services, obviously food, shelter, and water to animals. But we really took that a step further with defining appropriate shelter. Again, we addressed shelter accommodations in 40 degrees or less. We have also addressed in this section animal abandonment and leaving animals confined to vacant properties, so that that would no longer be allowed. The rest of the language is the same. Obviously, it would be unlawful for anybody to treat or cruelly treat, to beat or cruelly treat animals. And one other change that we have made to this section is to address ear cropping. We have not seen a lot of this, but we do see enough to know that when it is being done inhumanely and cruelly, meaning it like a home project. So we would like to ensure that ear cropping is only done by a licensed veterinarian.
Now, if they do that, gee whiz, if they do that illegally, are they ticketed?
Yes, sir. If they are found,
You find out,
Richland County has an ordinance against home ear cropping as well. It also very easily falls under the state statute of ill treatment to animals, so it could be pursued on a federal level as well.
Oh, good. Okay. Gee whiz.
One addition to the ordinances that we're going to talk about is the sale of animals. Currently, the city of Columbia does not have anything to address this, but it is something that comes to our attention. We have actually had a few constituents bring this up in the last 6 months or so with litters being sold in public right-of-ways, parking lots, flea markets, et cetera. The biggest concern with this practice is it does promote irresponsible breeding. Oftentimes, you see individuals involved in this activity selling puppies that are too young. Sometimes they're sickly, they can't verify vaccination records, and it's just not a good situation for the puppies to be in. Many times, these animals will end up in a shelter at some point or another because of the way that they were sold, or if they are sick, or something that the person who bought them can't address, they may end up coming to us for help. So we would like to implement this into our ordinance to address and prohibit. Again, on public right-of-ways, roadsides, and flea markets, this would not be applicable to any commercial kennels or animal care facilities. Our next change for discussion is probably the biggest change. We have mentioned this in the past, and it's a little bit of a mouthful, so bear with me here. This is in regards to our differential licensing program. Currently, we do have a pet licensing program that comes with the option of an annual $25 pet license if you have an unaltered pet, or a $5 annual pet license if you have an altered pet. We would like to bring some modifications to that would not include any changes to the annual $5 fee for a altered pet. However, we would like to see the fee increase for unaltered pets from $25 to $100 annually. We would also like to offer a one-time lifetime pet licensing to pet owners who spay and neuter and microchip their pets. So the biggest driving force to this was to incentivize spay and neuter and microchipping versus mandate it, which has been a conversation for discussion in the past. There has been a bit of a push for that, but we feel like we would get more compliance with this route. You're still leaving the decision up to the pet owner. Another few other benefits of this are we would predict improved license compliance, obviously faster pet owner retention for those animals that do come to the shelter microchipped, intake and cost reduction of shelter pets over time, and increased revenue for unaltered pets, and a stronger community return on investment, which we think would happen over time by shifting, those responsible pet owners, giving them that one-time lifetime fee versus those who are choosing not to vet their pets all the way with that $100 annual fee reoccurring.
So the incentive, one time, $25 if they're spayed, neutered, microchipped,
Yes, and we have,
versus now $100 every year if you haven't.
I was just gonna ask if it's gonna still be $25 for the lifetime.
the lifetime would just be $25, but again, the pet would have to be spayed, neutered, and microchipped.
I mean, I don't wanna add any money to Robert's budget, but could probably charge a little more.
Well, I think it's speaking, the incentivizing that, trying to drive folks to doing that ultimately saves us money because we're dealing with less strays,
Oh,
pickups,
absolutely.
and less
Yes.
population at the shelter. So
Yes.
for a couple of years, we've been talking about mandate, spay, neuter versus incentivize. I personally love this approach, and I think others have found it beneficial in other jurisdictions.
Also,
So
home run.
it seems like it, yes, sir.
You want to mention, Victoria, about Richland County kind of.
Yes, so again, our county partners are here today. They are interested as well, per a recent conversation with them, of adopting this ordinance to align with ours as well. We're hoping to advertise it with this year's budget with an implementation date to be determined based on another conversation with the county.
And Eric, I know you and Senator, y'all have got to go run the traps. We've talked about this for a while. A lot of the changes that we're making are syncing up with changes that Richland County has already made. This particular differential licensing, one of us has to go first, so we might as well be the one to to set it while your council considers
When you
that.
talk to your council, let them know that we're going together, and I said that.
Best if we can go together, for sure.
We don't necessarily have to be tethered.
At least this long.
That's right,
Not a
that's
heavy
right.
tether.
That's right.
I'm sorry, Victoria.
No, that's quite all right. I'm moving on to our draft. We do have another small change in the differential licensing section. You will notice there are some exemptions to pet licensing outlined in this section. It's going to be on page 4. It's subsection C, exemptions from differential licensing fees. These exemptions also apply to impounded pets. If you are not already aware, any animal impounded in our shelter is required to be spayed or neutered before it can go back home, with the exception of what is outlined on this page. So a couple of changes that we would like to make to this section are for an elaboration on the medical exemption. You'll also notice in our ordinance, when you have time to review it a little more closely, is any pet impounded a second time is not exempt from spay and neuter, no matter what. So this was a little conflicted, because if there is a legitimate medical exemption, we would not want to risk that pet's health by enforcing a spay or neuter for the second impoundment. So all we're simply asking for here is a little bit more detail from the veterinarian who provides the letter to let us know what the medical condition is, and if we would expect this to be a permanent or a temporary deterrent from the animal getting spayed or neutered at that time. So all we're really doing is elaborating on the medical exemption. The show dog exemption is staying the same as well. We are just simply asking for shows that are recognizing the breed of the animal. We have seen increased activity and, for lack of a better term, what would be called backyard shows. So it's essentially closer community
Backyard
members.
shows,
Yes, sir. Organizing shows locally. These are not nationally recognized shows. They are often targeted for breeds that are also involved in, for breeds that are often involved in breeding operations, maybe even sometimes fighting operations. We see a lot of that activity go hand in hand. So we are simply asking to specify that these are breeds that are recognized by national groups. And the last change to the section would be removal of the trained service animal. This, again, was written many years ago when service dog really meant one thing, and it's usually a service animal that was trained to perform a service. Sometimes it could be for a disability of sorts. And as terminologies around service animals have grown so much, you now have ESA for emotional support animal. We have some tricky obstacles with ADA laws, and we don't really want to jump in those waters without knowing them very well. We would just opt to remove this as an exemption, because we know that majority of the time, if there is a legitimately trained service animal, they are already altered. Those animals generally get spayed or neutered before they get placed with the person that they were trained to assist. So if we have a legitimate service animal in the shelter, which we do not see often, I can say in my 8 years of being at the shelter, I have not seen a legitimate service animal. They are usually with their people because that's where they're trained to be. But if that did happen, we would certainly release those animals. They are most likely going to be spayed or neutered regardless. So again, we are just asking to remove that altogether. Are there any questions on the ordinances before we go into the next section? Yes, sir.
Sure. I'm looking through, I see in section 4, the penalties under the nuisance, under the dangerous animals. I guess my question is, overall, when we have folks who violate, I guess really any of what's kind of laid out here, what are the teeth that we have as a city to handle enforcement? Certainly I see impoundment, articulated here, but outside of that, what other teeth do we have to levy fees, what have you?
Yes, sir, that's an excellent question. So we're code enforcement, we're not sworn officers, so we can only enforce our ordinances. Everything would be a misdemeanor. It really depends on what the violation is as far as to what the fee is going to be or what our course of action would be. We try to go into every situation with an educational approach over an enforcement approach unless this is a repeat offender or a situation that we're just not getting resolved. So in the way, are you asking specifically about dangerous dog or nuisance animal?
No, just, if you got somebody who is a knucklehead, you've gone out, you've advised, you've tried to educate, and they're not listening. How do we, what tools do we have to make sure that, one, there's nothing that's happening that's going to endanger, some of the animals, but also, making sure that, making sure that there's nothing else in the environment there.
Sure. Yeah, and again, it really is going to depend on what the violation is. You will see that we have added in to the ordinances. It's going to be section 4.2, impoundment of any fraction. That is something that we would not act on right away, but if we had a very severe situation in which an animal needed immediate interference or help, we would likely impound the animal. However, that is not something we ever go into right away. So if we're having something as simple as your pet is not licensed or you have a general care or a tethering violation, we're going to educate the owners, make sure they know the corrective actions. In many cases, if we're in an under-resourced area, we are very resource heavy, particularly with our partner organization, the Animal Mission. So we will offer dog houses or do fencing repair, depending on what the situation is. If the owner says, hey, this is the problem, I don't have the means to fix it. So we do everything we can within our means to resolve the situation. But if we're not getting it resolved, we've educated, we have given a deadline, which we always generally do, whether it be you have 14 days to license your pet or 3 days to come into compliance with the shelter stipulation. If we can't identify what the issue is, then we may end up citing the owner if it is something we feel that they do have the means to correct and they're just being negligent to the situation. Yeah, so responses can vary from a simple talk to a citation to an impoundment of an animal. Thank you. Are there any other questions on the ordinances?
I would, I want to thank Jessica. She and Victoria have been working very closely on this for a while. It's a pretty heavy lift. I don't know when the last time we really dug into this ordinance, how long it's been, but this is a much needed overhaul, so appreciate y'all's consideration. I know we've thrown a lot of ordinance changes at you. If y'all want to take some time and we can share it with Councilman Bailey as well, review that and, completely up to y'all. And we're not pressing to take action right now, but just wanted y'all to consider these and see those.
It sounds like, from a timeline perspective, we want to have this in place by next budget season, or?
Yes. That would be the preference.
Hopeful, yeah.
Good. In order to do that, we need to make sure that we're familiar with this, with the document.
We need to advertise fees during May. Whenever they advertise publicly, the fees would have to be advertised at that time.
10-4. So I was sharing this with Councilman Bailey. I'll digest it more, but I'll tell you, echo what Clint just said, it's gonna be very thorough. As many of you know, I had a past life at the city. I don't remember us ever dealing with the Animal Services Code, so definitely probably long overdue. But also, like I said, very thoughtful in addressing a lot of what I've heard going to neighborhood meetings and that sort of thing too, so. Job well done.
Yes, thank you very much. In addition to thanking Jessica, because she really was thorough in helping us unpack a lot of these situations, I'd like to thank the county. A lot of these ordinance changes are ones that they've passed within the last year to two, and they were much needed for us both. And I would really love to see us follow suit because a majority of these changes are simply to promote more humane practices, but also to offer clarification. Again, once you really break down the definitions that were added or the stipulations that go into tethering and general care, those things not being listed before left many questions for pet owners and concerned citizens who, had concerns of the animal's welfare. So we think they're going to be very positive.
Thank you.
Let me ask this
Sure,
real quick on
absolutely.
this language. I know we'll review it thoroughly as well. So we're gonna bring this back for the next.
Would like to, yes, sir. If that gives y'all enough time, we'd like to bring it back.
I just need anything concerning to me, but yeah, I would think that would work.
Okay, great.
Also want to share these with the council now. So they have a chance to look at them.
We certainly can. I guess procedurally, it'd be great to have a blessing from the HSE committee comes before council as a motion and a second, with plenty of time for them to read over it as well before they would be asked to take action. So I think maybe we got a little bit of time there, but.
The next item on our agenda is the animal shelter. We have discussed this at the last meeting, so I will be brief, but make sure not to miss any important details. I have additional copies of the animal shelter assessment that was conducted in 2023 for anybody who may need a new copy or did not get one. Those are in the middle of the table there for you. But it is essentially the results of a space study that was conducted by Animal Arts. They are an architectural group out of Colorado. And they were selected due to their extensive background with constructions and builds of animal shelters specifically. They really understand the unique needs of facilities of our nature when it comes to ventilation and drainage, kennel structure, as far as placement of the animals to reduce fear, stress, and anxiety. A lot of really, really good things came in their credentials. So when they came out in 2023 and assessed our facility, you will see a very thorough breakdown in the handout, but here are just a few of the recaps. When they toured the facility, they did make notes that our current facility does not promote best practices when it comes to animal welfare. Again, for a lot of those things just mentioned in the way of drainage systems, ventilation. There are parts of our facility where the floor is cracking and peeling, which harbors zoonotic and infectious disease. We do classify our building as a very sick building. We are currently actually under quarantine for a parvo outbreak in our puppy nursery, which is very common during the summer months, as parvo can live in cracks and crevices for 6 to 8 months. So it's nearly impossible to keep that virus out of the environment if the environment is not prepared to handle that or cannot be thoroughly disinfected, which our current facility cannot. So you will see some photos here of just a few of our kennel areas. That'll give you an idea down here on the lower left that our kennels are very close to each other. This promotes dogs seeing each other, which can easily elevate fear, stress, and anxiety, especially for dogs who are not accustomed to kennel environments. So that's a really important thing to make note of, because if you have challenges controlling or easing the fear, stress, and anxiety, you have undesirable behaviors that are going to come out of dogs, and they're not bad dogs. Oftentimes they may look or be deemed as aggressive, and they're really not. They're responding to their environment around them. They may be perfectly fine in a home environment. However, if they are displaying negative behaviors, it does make it a liability or concern for us to process them through an adoption avenue. So these little things do have a domino effect on the staff's ability to care for the animals' ability to have a live outcome. If you'll go on through some of the other photos, the second one is just of the poor drainage. It's an example the Animal Arts gave. We often have clogged drain issues. Our support services team is very responsive to us, but these, I think, are issues that even go beyond their abilities because of how frequently they're happening. The third photo there is one of our laundry spaces. We have a layout that is not very functional for what our team needs to do. We have 2 laundry areas that are on the opposite sides of the building, and it makes it very difficult to get laundry done in a timely manner. So you will see oftentimes backlogs like what you see in that photo there of laundry. Number 4 is the recovery space in our veterinarian's office, which is essentially one big open area. So you have animals that are waiting for surgery, being pre-sedated and examined for surgery, and recovering from surgery all in the same space. Again, it is not a best practice to operate that way. It can elevate, again, fear, stress, and anxiety levels in animals. It's also not safe for the staff to operate in such tight quarters without giving the animals their appropriate spaces. So these are just a few of here are just a few extra photos of what we talked about, the peeling and cracking floors, to give you a visual there. This bottom photo is our insulation, which is constantly falling and dropping Just yesterday, we had to move a dog out of his run because when we got into the shelter yesterday morning, he had a fair amount of insulation that had fallen from the ceiling. This is dangerous, just for a dog to be exposed to. Some dogs who are bored or frustrated may try to eat this, then you have a medical emergency. So certainly not ideal, not to mention the fire hazards that it can pose whenever it falls into the wood, because in the summer, we do have space heaters that are essentially keeping those areas warm. So a concern there. The right photo is, don't ask me why, but in '09, when this area of the building was built, the kennel structures, those doors are designed to come off, I guess for easy removal if needed, but it has resulting in doors falling in the middle of cleaning operations, which aside from being unsafe for staff, now you have an escapee. And the last thing you ever want to do is lose an animal who's on a stray hold on your watch, which has happened before because of door compromises like this. So a lot of flaws through the building's functionality, capabilities, housing components all the way around. Again, there's a deeper dive in that study for you. The ultimate recommendation of Animal Arts at the time, which was in 2023, was to demolish the facility and build new with an estimated cost at that time of around $24 million, but that was several years ago, so we're saying around $30 million today.
Well, I guess my immediate response would be, it's hard to enforce our ordinance that calls on, our dogs and animals be treated appropriately, correctly. If we're
Absolutely.
violating said ordinance, so.
Yes, that's a very accurate observation. Here are some of the proposed spaces from Animal Arts as far as our welcoming lobby, support spaces for storage and laundry, housing for the animals. They have proposed a very nice design with a plexiglass of kennels. This would be great to mitigate noise in kennels. If any of you have been to the animal shelter, then you know it is a very loud environment. The best that we can do within our means is acoustic panels, which do not make a difference. And it can be a very intimidating environment, especially if you're a family coming out to adopt a pet for the first time or you have young kids. I've tried to help parents in the past by holding their children's hand walking through the adoptions hall because it can be a very overwhelming environment. So a kennel structure of something like this would obviously be better for the pets and our public members. And then the last photo there is a proposal of what some of the veterinarian spaces would look like to promote the best practices of surgical operations, medical isolation. We currently do not have proper medical isolation, so obviously that's a space that would be proposed into a new build as well. With that, we would like to extend an invitation to anyone here who's interested to come down to the shelter and see our facility, maybe unpack some of these issues a little bit more and discuss the needs.
Well, I definitely want to do a tour. I'm gonna go ahead and blame Robert for that gate having fell off previously. But no, thank you so much. I will digest this report as well. Councilman McDowell, certainly want to open up the floor. Any concerns, any thoughts you might want to share?
Well, one of the things that I do want to do, I do want to visit. That's necessary. And I think those of us who are interested in animal care need to know exactly what it looks like.
Yes, sir.
And I want to see it. Have you got a cane corso there?
No, sir, not at this time. Are you looking for one?
Yes, I am.
Make a note.
Please, look. As many dogs that I have had, that particular breed of dog is my favorite. It's a big dog, and I'm used to big dogs, but this particular dog, I'm really enthralled with. That cane corso is a good-looking dog. You talk about ear cropping and tethering and all that sort of thing. If taught and socialized in a positive way, you don't have that problem. Please put my name on your list.
Yes, sir. I will do that. I will keep an eye out for a King Corso. Director Haynes, if you find one as well.
Yeah, if you find one.
I'll give you the address.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We don't want it to come to the shelter, right?
I guess I'm just curious. On this, I see the costs, and I'll digest this in total here, but I'm curious what we can do internally as a city to help try to get this number down as much as possible. I know at some point the costs are the costs. You have to invest. And it sounds like to me, if we're gonna demolish and keep the same site, it sounds like there's some significant infrastructure concerns there. I heard you mentioned some of the sanitary sewer issues, that sort of thing. So I'm just curious what we can do to try to present the most efficient request.
Sir, I think I'll give Robert and Victoria credit for this. Going ahead and procuring some at least preliminary design services.
No, absolutely.
That will help us really drive down on the number, the location. We actually have some property at the current location where we could stand up a new facility. And then that helps us start looking at, okay, what could we do? What are the things that we could do with city forces that could draw that number down with sharing cost, infrastructure investments and the like? So there could be some low-hanging fruit there, but really getting a firm engaged to do a preliminary design, cite it, hone in on those costs, I think, help. And by the time we get something designed, that gives us some time also to do some fundraising,
Yes, sir.
grant opportunities, those
Yes,
types
sir.
of things.
I would think that from a community perspective, there are some folks who I would feverishly urge to step up and help with this. How much do you think design would cost?
What did we estimate, 2 million, Robert? About 2 million for total design services, so.
Again, a rounding error in Robert's budget, but I will, it sounds like to me at some point that needs to be a request that comes from this committee to the council.
It's also another question.
It is.
Yes, sir. We went ahead and included that, which was a great addition, so. I want to say, despite the issues that Victoria shows with the space, she's a subject matter expert, and her team is doing an incredible job out there. I'm so proud of what they're doing with what they have to deal with. Our veterinarian's fantastic. Victoria's developed a good leadership team. They're really doing a great job with what they've got. So if you had a modern facility, the sky's the limit. right?
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Shealy. May I invite any more questions before concluding?
Councilman McDowell?
I'm good.
Thank you for your time and concern.
Thank you.
That concludes our agenda, I believe.
Yes, sir. I wanted to just mention future meetings, if we could. I know we've got a couple of items to follow up on, and just in terms of the meeting cadence and frequency, we had zeroed in on the fourth Tuesday of the month as a good Tuesday, and 1 o'clock is a good time. I think we've got plenty for a March meeting. If y'all would like to have a March meeting, if y'all want to do them every other month, that's completely up to y'all.
I'd like to do monthly.
Monday I like monthly.
Councilman,
I mean, I like monthly.
me.
It keeps us right on the cutting edge. Okay,
So,
every month. Fourth Tuesday every month.
Yes, sir. And for some reason, we don't have anything to present for the agenda, which usually doesn't happen. We wouldn't have to meet, but I can have that conversation. But so then the next meeting would be March 24th, I believe, at 1 p.m.
But it keeps you on target too, and it keeps all of us on target. Yeah,
sounds good to me.
sounds good.
So much. Appreciate it.
Move for adjournment.
I'll second that. Sounds good to me.
All right, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Great meeting.